I know a few good stories. They take place in a corner of America that might seem familiar, yet still manages to surprise. The settings are spectacular, the characters compelling, the action exciting, the plot lines unpredictable. I'm Tom Richardson. Join me as I explore New England's great outdoors, from Candlewood Lake, Connecticut to Caribou, Maine, from the beaches of Cape Cod to the peaks of New Hampshire's White Mountains. The stories are waiting. Let's live them on Explore New England. Explore New England is brought to you by Down East Magazine, the magazine of Maine, visitnewengland.com, and Northeast Delta Dental.
The core concept of like being able to go out and spend time with your friends and cook for each other and cook with each other and sit around a table and explore and have adventures together. I think that sort of thing is not dead. I think it's very much alive. My name is Max Zablicki. I'm based out of Biddeford, Maine, and I'm a wood-fired chef. Maine is a really special place. I've been coming here ever since I was a kid, and it's always had a special place in my heart. So when I became older and I had the opportunity to move up to Maine full-time, I jumped on it and have never looked back. I love living here. It's my favorite place in the world. There's countless coves, nooks, and crannies all up and down the coast of Maine to find unique ingredients and incredible people growing them. Last winter, me, Cam, and Tucker, we had this idea that we could try to sail somewhere in Maine and bring my wood-fired grill out and cook a meal with things that we sourced locally. Over the years, all of us as a group of friends had played with fire in the backyard and on the beach, having little dinners and enjoying time together, and this was sort of the idea to take it one step further and really make something special out of it. The plan we finally came together on was to assemble this sort of harebrained crew of people of our just friend group. The plan was to take the boat out of Boothbay Harbor and out around the peninsula and sail to Ram Island, a part of the Maine Island Trail, and have an open fire dinner with all these ingredients and things that we sourced from nature or friends who are farmers or farmers in the area, and just sort of all come together and celebrate summer and local producers in a really special place in Maine. So the crew was myself and sort of the cook or the chef for the whole adventure. We had Cam on video, Tucker on photo, John was our hype man and organization expert, Simon was our captain who provided the boat, first of all, which was a major part of the trip. Ellie was the first mate. I actually still have her socks in my room. Yeah, they ended up in my laundry somehow. We are going up to Midcoast to go sailing and fire cooking and oyster hunting and kelp hunting and all sorts of fun stuff. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be really great. So the plan was to take 2 full days to execute the trip and spend a full day sourcing ingredients, meeting with farmers, and really getting everything together for the trip. We started the day in Biddeford, where we all live, and drove up to Mere Point to meet with Cam of Mere Point Oyster Farm, and he took us out on his boat.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Cam. Max. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to Mere Point Oyster.
What's
So,
the
plan?
Yeah, so today we'll show you around the facility. We'll hop out on the water. The guys are out there right now doing some husbandry tasks, so we'll go check them out, say hi, pull a few bags ourselves, eat a few oysters, obviously, and we'll give you the whole spiel, and then we'll pull out and have some nice oysters. So, yeah.
Awesome.
This is Mere Point Bay, where we're launching, and then on the other side where our lease is, that's McQuoit Bay.
Okay.
And on both north ends of the bays, there's mud flats. And they produce really, really good cohogs, really good steamers. We started in 2016, a small family-run business. So my father and Mr. Devereaux started this company, and now it's my brother and I, and then the other two brothers actively working full-time. I'm the operations manager, my brother's the salesman, and then the other two sons are farm manager and nursery manager. So there's different ways an oyster can be grown, and it's crazy how the different ways you grow them really affects the final product. So there's bottom culture, which you just seed them all. Yep. And then there's top culture, floating cages, which we use. And then there's bag systems, which that's also top culture. And then there's intertidal sites, where intertidals, when at low tide there's no water, high tide there's water. Yep. And what happens with those is they're constantly going out with the tide, in with the tide, and they're constantly getting tumbled and turned around. Yep. So it creates a really, really nice oyster, outer shell. It's like a circle almost.
Wow.
Get some gloves. We'll just pull up a cage, see what's in it, take a look, and then we'll go over to the other side to pull out some markets and show you those, and then we'll eat a few over there on the other side where it's less windy. Let's see what's here.
Looks like you got some stuff in it.
So if you want to grab that corner right there, I'll grab this corner here. And then put your hand like this. And on the count of three, we'll lift up 1, 2, 3. So it works well if you go like this. And then just push up. Just like that. Let's just see what's going on here. So these guys are probably a year old, year and a half old. You can see different sizes. So these haven't been sorted at all. Yeah. It's just a mix match. You can see there's muscle clumps that will eventually get pulled off. And if we open it up, so there's a big difference in what's in here. You know, this is a great cocktail that could go to the market anytime, but it's in this bag, right? So and then you got stuff, a lot of deads. So what's nice is when they die, they obviously don't grow. So generally in a bag, the smaller oysters are going to be dead.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. That's farming. There's mortality. But the reason we grow with our technique is it creates a really clean oyster. So our oysters never touch the mud. So they're growing their whole life, which is 2 years. It takes about 2 years to get a seed to market. And they're grown on the top of the water where most of the food is. So by doing that, we try to give our oysters the maximum environment for filtering and growth. And we currently, so this summer, we put in 5 million seed. So it's always changing when a crop comes into market size and all that, but generally at any given time, we have around 250,000 market oysters ready to go. A single mature oyster can filter 50 gallons of water a day. And if you think about it in millions that we have out there, it's just a massive filtration system floating in the bay. We've noticed since starting it, 7 years ago, the water quality here in McQuaid and Mere Point Bay has been better than I've seen it growing up. So, we got some Mere Point oysters here, some petites. Petites are generally 2.5 to 3 inches. And we'll shuck a few and show you how it's done. So on the oyster, this is called the cup side, so we'll want to put the cup down. And this is called the hinge. This is where you enter the oyster and start shucking. So you generally, it's not about brute force, it's more about constant pressure and the wiggle motion. So I generally like to say, once you get it where you can put the knife upside down and it holds on pretty good, that's when you're able to give it a twist. And you give it a twist this way, which then opens up the oyster, and you come in from where it gaped, and you slowly work along the top shell. The oyster is connected on the top shell by the abductor muscle, and on the bottom shell, the cup side, by the same abductor muscle. So you want to come in, you already cut the top shell, and then you come in and do a swooping motion to cut the bottom abductor muscle. And you give it a push around to make sure it's free, and then you top it with whatever you want, or you eat it raw.
Don't mind if I do, right, Max?
Mm-hmm. Oh. It's so good.
That's awesome.
Max won't stop
Just
eating
hand it
oyster.
over.
Oh, I can't.
How many of these have you eaten? All of them?
Probably
And what else have you eaten today?
nothing.
Exactly. Coffee and coffee.
Right? Wow. Being here, I grew up commercially lobstering during the summers. That's how I afforded to go through school. The industry itself here in this bay, the water's warming, lobsters like colder water. They haven't been coming into the bays as much. So we've switched over to farming, and it's more predictable. It's better for the environment. It's basically as sustainable as you can get.
Meeting with Cam was a great experience, and it really shed a lot of light on the oyster industry in Maine and how beneficial it is. From the cooking side, we've all known that oysters are incredibly delicious and they're fun to work with. That was my first oyster straight out of the water in the cold storage, and that was an oyster I'll never forget. Just absolutely delicious and fresh, as perfect as it could be. After Mere Point, we left and made our way up to Boothbay, stopping at a farm stand along the way to pick up a few extra ingredients. In Boothbay, we met up with John Curtis, and he took us out to one of his favorite spots to look for kelp. We were looking for sugar kelp and sea lettuce, which grows abundantly and naturally all along the coast of New England. After a short hike through the woods, we all got down to the beach and put our wetsuits on, and John sort of walked us through what we were looking for, what we were going to do, and then we all got in the water. We were looking for kelp because I really wanted to try to make a kelp butter to put with our oysters and with our fish.
It's being used in a lot of food products. It's a good off-season crop for fishermen. I think that kelp is a super, and honestly aquaculture, seaweeds in general, are super underutilized in the States. They could be a really important food source for a lot of people. It's kind of underdeveloped, and it's very exciting.
John really showed us how to properly harvest and prepare it and bring it back so we could cook with it without damaging the ecosystem. John was really keen on us not harvesting any of the large, well-established beds of kelp in order to preserve the ecosystem and keep it intact, and instead we opted to harvest small, abundant little sections of kelp to bring back with us for our dinner. The kelp dive was honestly one of my favorite parts of the trip. It was so informative working with John and going out and diving side by side with him as he showed us the sustainable and proper way to harvest seaweed and the different types all in this small little area. And it was just so much fun for all of us friends together, swimming and diving and like playing in the water together. It was a joy. We all learned and got to take some kelp home with us to cook with the following day. It was a great experience. We stayed the night at Simon's house. We made a family dinner all together and sat down, and Simon walked us through some basic sailing techniques and some knots. So we all felt much more prepared and ready for what was to come next.
I was like, I wonder how this is going to lead out of this.
Course it out. So be like, okay, they're going to start with the oysters, and we're going to move through these courses.
Right.
So like they were confused.
Okay, yeah, before you get in the boat, guys, there's like 2 knots that we should just go over just in case you guys need to like tie something off really quick. So bowline's probably one of the strongest knots you can know. So you just take like a loop like that. And this is how I do it, but a bunch of people do it differently. But just flip this on top of itself like that. Grab the bitter end. You're gonna go over top of this and under this. Here. Over, under, here. So then it would look like that. So like that's not gonna come undone. And then even under tension, like you can flip this, capsize it. So then when you want to get it undone, it's really easy. Like this could pull a lot, like this could take a lot of tension, and you can still break it really easy and get it undone. So that's like one of the best knots you can know. So go over this one.
Over that.
And
then up through the loop.
yeah, and then pull on that, boom.
Gotcha.
Yeehaw!
Cool. Nice.
That's it, and like that'll hold.
Right now we're gearing up for our trip out to the water. So we're filling my car with everything that we own. Now it's gonna be a great day. So I'm just kind of like thinking of last minute details and little like recipe things for today.
The final note of departure.
The boat we were sailing was Simon's 1978 J24 sloop, a classic race boat that Captain Simon now said was being used as a red radio flyer wagon for our gear. The goal was 15 minutes for everything unloaded on the dock, ready to go on the boat. 15 minutes. 14 minutes, 58 seconds. 2 seconds to spare. I'm getting a coffee with that time. But as we were loading, Cam noticed a bunch of mackerel swimming around in the harbor, and we couldn't resist but to put a line in. It took all of 2 seconds for Cam to pull one out, and after that, every minute after, each one of us got to pull up a fish until we knew that all of us were at least going to eat some fish. All of us were really excited to see the mackerel. It's a great fish to work with, especially for open fire cooking. It's an oily fish, so when you get it on the grill, all those oils come through and create delicious smoke, full of flavor. It's an excellent fish to cook with, and I wish more people appreciated it for that. After we loaded the boat, we sailed across the harbor to Atlantic Edge to go check out their lobsters. We picked up a few that looked great, got back on the boat, and then sailed out of the harbor on our way to Graham Island. We sailed out around Southport Island up into the Sheepscot River and then landed on Ram Island. Upon arriving to the island, we tied off at the designated tender for Ram Island left behind by the Maine Island Trail for boaters. The Maine Island Trail is a recreational water trail that spans the entire coast of Maine, connecting over 200 islands and mainland sites available for day visits or overnight camping. Ram Island is this beautiful setting of these old spruce trees and rocky beach and moss-covered ground, something out of a fairy tale. It's untouched and beautiful, and you feel like you're some of the only people on Earth. After we got to the island, we unloaded our gear bit by bit in the dinghy until everything was on the island, and then we started to get our camp set up. Maine Island Trail keeps the islands clean through carry-in and carry-out principles, and visitors are required to cook in the designated areas to preserve the beauty of the islands. We had the entire day available to relax on the island, to get set up, and really just enjoy our time and appreciate nature in such a beautiful place. And as the lights started to get low, we decided to head back and get our fire started for dinner. I started by making a mignonette by roasting a shallot in the coals of our fire. I peeled the shallot, chopped it finely, mixed it with Spanish sherry vinegar and just a little bit of sugar to take some of that acidity out of the vinegar. So these shallots are in right now, and we're just trying to really lightly roast these. We want them to kind of be mostly raw inside, but warmed through. And then we're gonna take those, cut them up, mix them with some sherry vinegar and sugar, and make the mignonette for our oysters. And then I'm gonna do some nice lines like that. All right, now I'm gonna be using some nice sherry vinegar from Spain. I like this one because it's got a really nice taste. Got some sugar. And now, most important part here is tasting. Figure out where we're at. It's so vinegary, so I'm literally just gonna take some sugar, mix it in, taste it. Already less vinegary, but still pretty vinegary. I'm gonna take another scoop. Since I'm not really talking about tablespoons and this and that, you're just going by taste, trust your gut. If it tastes good, it's probably good. But you waste so much time weighing things out. Yeah. We bled and gutted the mackerels and tossed them with olive oil and salt and grilled them over the fire. We made a butter flavored with the kelp we had picked earlier in the day and a few bayberry leaves from the bush behind our fire, and used that to finish the mackerel. Add my butter. Just gonna start melting that down. And I'm gonna pick some bayberry over here. And I'm just gonna take a few leaves, kind of from all over, so we're not hurting each stalk too much. Adding the bayberry leaves in, get those going. We're gonna add some kelp in there. Stir this up. So I'm letting it brown a little bit, so all those milk solids in the butter are actually gonna toast. You can almost see it getting darker right now. Mackerels are gonna be very simple. It's already a pretty oily fish, but I've always found if you add a lot of olive oil to it, it just helps it not stick to the grill. It might still stick, but it's the nature of what we're doing out here. But this is a good preventative measure. All right, we're gonna lay these guys out. All right, this is browned really nice now.
yours?
You're good.
One sec. Okay, good. Good thing.
They're not sticking too bad. This is great.
Like, yep, you're good.
All right, and this is the bayberry kelp brown butter that we made. Just gonna go over all of this with it. Like that. And boom, mackerels that we caught this morning. We shucked our Mere Point oysters and topped them with the mignonette, and then served it up on a bed of seaweed. Ooh, yeah.
Dude, thank
The
you.
fish came out good?
So good.
Great.
Thank you.
After we all sat down for dinner together after a couple days of gathering ingredients, sailing, and exploring, we realized just how lucky we were to sit in somewhere so beautiful, and we really enjoyed each other's company. It was a very special experience to be able to gather with such a diverse and cool group of friends. Everybody has busy schedules and life to do, and it was amazing to all of us set aside time to be out here together on the island to share this beautiful experience. After waking up on a dewy morning in the hammock, we all made coffee together and then loaded up the boat to sail away from the island. We reflected on what a great time it had been, with a sense of accomplishment and pride, and with excitement looking forward to the next adventure. The Maine Islands are captivating, beautiful, and mysterious, and one could spend an entire lifetime finding out what's out there. And for that reason, I'll always keep coming back.